Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Warcraft news. Okay, Shadowlands is changing, BlizzCon is looming, that all means we've got a whole bunch to talk about, so let's just go and do it. Alright, Blizzard have begun to make Shadowlands a more rewarding experience. 35 anima after defeating a progression raid boss? Doesn't feel good. It's fair to say, right, that anima gains were a complete pittance through a whole bunch of PvE content, and I think they still do actually feel a tad low now that we're a week into this change being implemented, but yeah, Blizzard increased the amount of anima that we get. So, us raiders, we now get 105 anima per boss for the first 8, 175 for the last 2, meaning that clearing Nathria gets us 1190 anima, more than enough to complete the weekly, so yeah, pretty good. I mean, not compared to the really expensive Covenant Sanctum upgrades, but you get it. Mythic Plus, you're also seeing change. M plus 7 through 9 drop 70 anima, while 10 onwards drops 105. And that feels really low to me, at least compared to, like, you know, the anima per hour that I would get from a lootless Nathria reclear versus a night of doing M plus, but I guess it's an improvement. Next, VALOR points. Blizzard have clarified something since our last video, and that is that Mythic Plus gear that you have right now in your character will not be upgradable. Only new gear that is dropped after the change will be usable with the VP upgrade system. Now, this, they say, is for a mix of design reasons where they don't want you to feel like you're having to hoard every single piece of gear you get right now and you know, farm that stuff out, but also technical reasons that they haven't really elaborated on. I mean, it doesn't seem like the hardest challenge in the universe to make it upgradable for the gear that you have now, so I think that probably is more of a design decision, to be honest with you. But this is something that's not really went down super well with a bunch of the players, and I can see why. You may just say, oh, people obviously want the easy way out, they've already got the gear, they want to upgrade that. You could say that. But I'd also say that people don't want to, halfway through a season, re-earn new versions of the gear that they've already got just so they can farm a small number of item level upgrades on said gear. So fair enough that that's not the most exciting prospect if getting the highest item level in Season 1 of Shadowlands is your big goal. Now as for the rest of that stuff with VP, look, we've covered that in the main video. Your TLDR, you get VP from Mythic Plus and from Callings. You can upgrade your Mythic Plus gear drops with that VP. Overall, as I said in the video, you know, I'm very happy that there's deterministic stuff coming back. It is a step forward. It's not ideal though, right? I mean, first, there is no raid solution. Raid gearing doesn't feel mega good, so there is that. And also, this is only a good system if you get the gear you want. And that is quite different to old VALOR point systems, which let you actually buy gear. Perhaps the situation is Blizzard still wants gear drops to be rare, but then to make them more exciting because you will know that because that bit of gear is upgradable, that it just is of a higher value to you and you can have it, you know, stick around on your character for longer. So it could be that. But overall, I will say this VP system feels like, well, we don't say band-aids over here, but it's the common term, so a band-aid fix. You know, that's what the VP stuff seems like, a band-aid fix with a patch 9.0.5 built around it that probably was not in Blizzard's original plan. I mean, BFA and Legion went straight to 7.1 and 8.1, so if there's a 0.05, yeah, they probably didn't plan it. Still, I'll say that things like VALOR points usually have a seasonal reset, okay? And that means that if this is just a band-aid fix to help the end of Season 1, and then Blizzard have a natural point to implement a version 2 of this VALOR point gearing system for Season 2 of this expansion, then that would be natural if it comes along with a new patch and your regular seasonal sort of reset. Anyway, I think this V2 should include buying gear. I do think, as I said in the original gearing video I did, that should involve seasonal sets, be those like clear class sets, or maybe some class sets that are more designed for the Mythic Plus gameplay. I mean, Mythic Plus players, yeah, I mean, they don't really get the new shiny stuff. They just kind of get the same old, but at higher item level, so I think that would be more exciting for them. Yeah, look, this surely can't be the final VP system. I've been assuming that, and I hope that me assuming that is a reasonable and okay thing to do. Because if this is final, then yes, I have several questions, Blizzard. Okay, next up, do you want to help us out and also get some sweet loot? If you do, Patreon is the place, and this month you will get the shield pin to go with the swords that are, I believe right now, actually on their way to you, as well as a whole bunch of lovely art to adorn your walls. Of course, everything there goes back into the channel. And look, believe me, there's a reason why we were slow out the gate in 2021. And that reason is we're working on longer term plans, right? And how we can actually, make incredible content for you a lot more. We want to increase our hit rate and, all that stuff to build a better future for everything. So that's what we're working on. More on that in due course. Thank you, and let's go. Next up, let's talk release dates, because this is an odd one. Patch 9.0.5 is targeted, Blizzard say, for March 2021. That's 3 to 4 months after launch. So it very much does not look like 9.0.5 will have much content. I mean, if you're looking at the PTR and stuff, really, it's not new content. Instead, it's focusing on systems, balance, things like that. Now, that Blizzard have broken all of these changes off into their own patch, a patch that doesn't have much content, that tells me that Blizzard does not want to hold back what they view as core systems updates until 9.1 releases and is ready, right? They don't want to wait that long. And that makes me think that timelines are probably a bit ropey on new content, because usually I would expect a minor patch, not a raid tier, but a minor patch like an 8.1 within 3 months of an expansion launch. That is what we've come to expect. And yet, it seems the first bundle of new content may be, relatively speaking, later than BFA's 8.1 was for that expansion cycle. And it was later than we all would have thought. Now, while a little worrying, we should remember here that Shadowlands was delayed, so there's a very high chance the team are starting off, number one, a bit tired, maybe a bit burnt out, which is reasonable, and also maybe a bit behind schedule. That's just what it's like whenever last-minute delays happen. Last-minute delays rarely speak to all schedules being shipshape internally. But it's hard to say overall, but I do think, I don't think we should temper expectations for content, but I think we should temper expectations for timelines of said content. I mean, why would they split all of this VP stuff into 9.0.5 if 9.1 was just around the corner? Because if timelines were normal, we would expect 9.1 to be on the PTR and us to be messing around with newish content right now as we speak. So maybe we're looking at an April-May 9.1, maybe a May-June raid release date for that. I mean, it's hard to know what Blizzard have got planned. 7.1 and 8.1 were, not super raid content focused. They more beefed out that launch experience. And that means that if 9.1 is to be 4 to 5 months after launch, then yeah, I would expect that to be a raid systems and content patch. Maybe they'll do what they did in BFA, where, 8.1 adds a bunch of stuff, then it's 8.1.5 that comes with the raid unlock. We'll have to see. Generally speaking, though, I'd say we got to cut them some slack in timelines because of obvious things in the world. And yeah, I guess if your expectations are well tempered, you won't be disappointed. And next up, we've got a late in the day addition to this video because pretty much just after I recorded it, Blizzard revealed their immediate raid gearing solution, and it is that they're increasing drop rates by 33%. That basically means you will get 1 piece for every 5 players in the raid. So if you bring, say, 12 players, you'll definitely get 2 pieces, and you might get a third. So, I mean, yeah, come on, those situations, you've got like 11 people in the raid, you only get 1 bit of loot, doesn't feel great. So that's going to be better, but then with the actual loot that does drop, well, they've increased the rate for weapon tokens, so we're actually going to see those a bit more often, which, hey, is pretty nice as somebody with an item level 200 bow. Overall, what does this mean, though? Does this mean that raiders are crying and screaming over not getting enough loot and that they're all a bunch of hypocrites over Titan Forging being removed? Or does it maybe more simply mean that the Great Vault didn't really fill in the role that Blizzard thought it would, because Blizzard basically thought that the Great Vault would make up for Titan Forging and make up for, well, everything else that was going on with gear, including things like bonus rolls? Well, I think it's pretty obvious the situation here, Blizzard. I'd think that the Great Vault didn't really fill in as much of their sort of catch-up and insurance policy part of gearing for a whole bunch of people, and I think that's why they've decided to boost up those drops at the actual source. Overall, I think this is pretty decent. Look, it's fine for raiding to, be be giving you a decent little amount of loot, because at the end of the day, it is a weekly capped activity in terms of the loot. I think that does mean that actually balancing the amount of loot that raids throw at you is probably easier than with Mythic Plus, because Blizzard's eternal problem with M Plus has just been that people can infinitely farm it up. So, look, we're not going to a perfect state here, but I think raid gearing is getting better. Mythic Plus gearing is getting better. There's obviously a few, gripes of that we have covered in this video, but we're moving in the better direction. So I guess here's to seeing what 9.1 and all of that stuff announces, because I imagine sort of, Season 2 is a bit of a fresh slate, and that's when they can make any more fundamental gearing changes that they want to. All right, next up for today, we have got what appears to be a new system for the Maw. So, at least 4 of you are excited about more Maw content. But, right, so the way it works is there are these Stygia nexuses that are floating around the Maw now, and you can loot them. When you loot them, you get a bit of Stygia, you also get some Stygia dust and some Stygia slivers. And these Stygia nexuses can be tracked using the new Stygia dowser item that you get from Venari. And you can get many of them using the grappling hook, and Blizzard have added many more grappling hook points. So, yeah, pretty cool. Now, all of this stuff appears to tie into a Soul Forge in Domination Keep. It's one that's newly accessible in 9.0.5. Now, much of the rest is missing here, but from what they could tell from the data mining, Wowhead seemed to be pretty confident that this is how you will get a Maw mount. One of the ones that we expected, but isn't in the game right now. So, solid enough, I think. I'd agree with Wowhead. That's all pretty nice, but right now that's it. I mean, you've got this Stygia stuff crafting window with 2 items on it. Is that only going to lead to a mount? Or will there be a more broad, like, Stygia forging or soul forging system appearing in this patch? Hard to know. I would say, though, that if the vague idea is we get a bunch more resources when we're doing stuff in the Maw, and then we can make a whole bunch of cool shit with that, then that certainly is good. Now, I've got my gripes with the Maw as an experience, but I do think that adding stuff like this is absolutely the right direction. Okay, next up, let's do, I think what's a bit of a victory lap of changes, because there's stuff here that I think you're going to like. So, the lesser known changes in 9.0.5, let's go. The Great Vault. You can now view it from anywhere via the default UI. That's a real nice change. Do note, though, you can do that with this macro right now. Type that in-game, and your Great Vault window will appear even if you're in Stormwind. Past that, your endless loops of Oribos in search for a mailbox are going to be aided by the appearance of now 4 mailboxes in Oribos. Yes, there's 4 mailboxes and also a Great Vault map marker. So that will help your Oribos navigation a nice little bit. Speaking of navigation, well, we do that in mounts, and some new mounts have been found, but they're encrypted. Now, we know they're called the Sapphire Skyblazer and Fire Plume Phoenix, and they both have their listed source as promotion. So expect these to be on the store, maybe a 6-month mount, things like that. Speaking of mounts as well, people found this new mount-up animation. Yeah, the poof of smoke is gone, replaced by a pressure wave. So, yeah, I guess you really do mount up with fury in this game. Next, HD Stormwind textures. These have been found by data miners. And, yeah, I mean, I've not really been in the data mining Discord servers, but, I was going around on Twitter, saw Mr. GM's feed, and, yeah, he just posted these textures that the data miners found. You're like, yeah, pretty cool. Now, does this mean Stormwind revamp coming, new textures, all HD? No, not necessarily. The Stormwind sure does look ancient these days, so that would be pretty neat to see. But, yeah, there you go. There was some new textures found. And speaking of things around the Elwyn Forest, a new place has been found. It is the Volos Homestead, which is there in Elwyn Forest, and we have no idea why. Beyond, we know that it's a Dungeons & Dragons reference. So, who knows what's going to go on there. Now, returning to more useful, tangible things for you, there is now a renown tooltip that tells you how to get more renown. And it's kind of funny, I guess that many players just missed out on how that system worked. I mean, it's hard to see that from our point of view as people who are super engaged in the game, but yeah, you can see some people finding Shadowlands as, multiple buildings to upgrade and your anima stuff and your various different currencies and things. I could see people finding that just a bit dense and obtuse and them kind of wandering off before they actually understand the things. So maybe Blizzard are aware that that's happening in the sort of general non-super engaged segment of the player base. Okay, that's a bunch of minor changes. Let's move on. You know, I'd like a lot more minor changes that have big impacts, and I think 9.0.5 is the type of patch that wants to do things like that. You know, quality of life stuff, systems tweaks. So here's like a few ideas from my wish list off the top of my head. Do, though, leave yours. So, Threads of Fate. Come on, we need to rebalance that and change it up. I think it should just be a bit faster, a bit more XP, but if we're not doing that, there is something that would be really good. I think we could open up Renown and Covenant campaign progress on Threads of Fate. Because the whole point of Threads of Fate is the campaign's already done. So why not let us go through that Covenant campaign and get some Renown while we're leveling our characters up? I mean, right now I'm leveling up a priest, and I will tell you that I would be more likely to log into the game and level up my priest if I was doing that and also getting Renown and my soul binds and stuff at the same time. To me, that was always the promise of the Threads of Fate system as Blizzard originally described it, so let's just do that. Come on, guys. Next up, Torghast stuff. I think you should just get Stygia from Torghast. Yeah, I do. My perspective there is you should be able to progress your Torghast power by doing Torghast. So let's get some Stygia for those Venari upgrades from Torghast. I really think that it's like the entire progression system of a game like Hades being and doing something else outside of Hades. It doesn't make that much sense from a roguelite perspective. I'd also say Soul Ash from Twisting Corridors. Let's just put a weekly cap on it and make it so that people can get Soul Ash by doing the bit of Torghast that actually has the potential to be fun. Very much unlike those, 6 floor long layers that you do for Soul Ash. I don't think those are fun at all. That's like putting your worst foot forward. And then I think that's got to happen ASAP. But you see, once 9.1 comes out, I think the current layout of Torghast content flat out sucks and has poisoned so much of the player base against what could be a pretty damn awesome thing, as a lot of us said during beta. And remember, the current layout of Torghast was a late enough in the day beta change, right? So I think we need to totally revamp that. Keep the same core content, but revamp everything else around it. Next up, Mythic Plus gear set. I think something like that would be really nice for the Mythic Plus players. And there's that. You could tie it into a VP system. You can make it, share gear sets with the raids or just be Mythic Plus specific, but whatever. I think something a bit more rewarding there, a bit more visual would be pretty sweet. Conduit acquisition and progress. Right now, if you're a Mythic Plus player especially, then the best you can get for your conduits drop item level is 200. And that then means that if you want to get really good conduits, you've then got to go and farm the Stygia in the Maw so that you can roll your conduit item level upgrade gacha game with Venari. But of course, that's all expending a resource that you kind of would want for sockets. And I just think that's a really muddly, not very nice progression system. I think it should essentially be scrapped, or at least you should make it so that if you're doing M+ and stuff, that you're getting conduits that are higher and higher and higher item levels. And man, honestly, the entire conduit system's a humongous waste of time, but I'm going to save that for a future video about how I think a lot of Shadowlands development time was basically a complete waste that players don't actually care about. The next up for Covenants, I think there is some stuff that we could do to make the current system work a little bit better. And the analogy here is that it's a bit like how, if I'm in the UK and I go over to the States, I'm fairly sure they'll respect my driver's license. So it's kind of like one of those treaties. So you could have the lore here be that the Covenants get together, they kind of make their big treaty, and, it's a bit of power sharing and a bit of, recognizing, oh yeah, you champion, you did really good for that Covenant, so we're going to treat you like one of our own because we're all on the same side here, the same team. I think they should basically do that in such a way that, and this is quite challenging how you'd actually do it, but I think there's got to be something where, you don't just do one Covenant and then unlock the cosmetics of every other Covenant. That obviously would not be good, but somewhere where you could swap over to another Covenant and kind of be up to full power extremely quickly, as if your renown level was the same between them. So I don't know how you'd exactly do that, but I think something needs to happen there. And I think this is something that will matter a lot more in the near future, because in 9.0.5, Blizzard are rebalancing a bunch of the Covenant abilities. So if those things are more balanced, then you're just going to have a situation where, a whole bunch of the old arguments that we all made from beta about how the Covenants are a bit of an awkward system, I think a whole bunch of those will be felt by players a bit more if the balance is actually decent. So something to be concerned about, I think. All right, BlizzCon line. I'm going to rocket through some, just some basic things because, look, it's the week before, so kind of tradition. We got to do some things. What do we expect? Well, Diablo Immortal, I think you'll get something there. Diablo 2 reforged, remastered, whatever. I think that there's a chance that could be announced, given that everything else that we know. Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2, I think we'll get, their reveals, their various aspects, their talks, but of course, nothing major because we know that those games are not coming out in 2021, but we maybe could get a 2022 release window be announced. As for other stuff, for World of Warcraft, I think you're going to get a lot 9.1. You know, my personal suspicion, as I said, is that 9.1 basically is a full major patch, so you'll get a whole bunch on that. You might get a bit of teasing for 9.2 or a 9.1.5. There's also Warcraft mobile games. I've seen some people basically say it's clickbait to say that that's a thing. I would say to those people, read the literal transcript of Activision Blizzard's earnings call where they said that there were multiple mobile titles in development for the Warcraft IP and that they would be free to play. So that's not clickbait, that's something they're working on. The question is, would they feel comfortable announcing that at a BlizzCon, or would they rather, like say with the announcement of Hearthstone, do that somewhere else? Because of course Hearthstone was announced at a PAX. There's not much to learn then from the schedule that they posted, but you can look at that. And all I've really learned there is that I'm due in for a very, very late night indeed next week. But there you go. That's BlizzCon line. Of course, it being free for all, there being no virtual tickets, is really quite nice indeed, I think. So, all right, that is basically it for the old Warcraft news. If you would like to watch some other things on the channel, there have been other videos up this week. And if you're interested in a bit of the gaming news, do check out our other channel. We're doing quite a lot there. And, well, there's a big video that is the first of a sort of what we call feature content that we're working on. Should be out in the next 2 weeks, and there's a lot more cool stuff going on there. And I do think that in the future, as we move the news channel over to be a lot more focused on big sort of quality features, I think that channel will be more relevant to, well, just enjoyable to those of you who are here, you know, ostensibly just for Warcraft. I think we'll have some other things that are up your alley. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching, and let me know, what are those quick quality of life fixes that you think 9.0.5 should add? Thanks, see you next time.